Welcome to Brunch with Books. We are today continuing with the two books we have started for this month, that is Jurassic Park and Sapiens. And today we are deep diving into some more deeper topics which we all are facing in today's world. Let's see what those things are and what values we can bring from these conversations. Over to you, Dr. Geeta.
Hi everyone. What happens when nature doesn't just break free, but turns the hunters into the hunted? This question is for you all to ponder on. The iconic story of Jurassic Park, made into a blockbuster movie, captured the world's imagination for this very reason. It combined cutting edge science with the primitive fear of raw power. Michael Crichton didn't just give us dinosaurs, he exposed humanity's dangerous confidence in control, technology, and power. The novel grips readers' minds because beneath the thrill lies a chilling question. What if our greatest inventions are also our greatest downfall? For much of the story, Jurassic Park is presented as a marvel: engineered precision, electric fences, computer systems, and human confidence holding ancient power in place with remarkable efficiency. Everything appears contained, predictable, controlled until everything vanishes. Power systems fail, electric fences go dead, boundaries stop existing, and what was once a theme park transforms into an open ecosystem where dinosaurs roam free. The Tyrannosaurus rex escapes first not as a monster but as a force of nature. It attacks vehicles, shatters illusions of safety, and exposes the terrifying truth: human planning means nothing in the presence of brute power. Then come the velociraptors. They are not chaotic beasts. They are intelligent, strategic, chillingly coordinated, very mean. They test fences. They hunt in packs. They adapt. And in them, Crichton shows us something far more unsettling than size: intelligence without morality. Children are no longer visitors, they are prey. Scientists are no longer experts, they are scattered survivors. The language of research, data, and theory collapses, replaced by instinct, fear, and movement. Survival replaces science. Dr. Grant undergoes a profound transformation here. He begins as a paleontologist, a scientific observer of the life of the past, but in the wilderness of the present, he becomes a protector. No longer studying fossils, he navigates living danger, guiding the children through forests. Malcolm is severely injured, leaving him unconscious for much of the chaos. And every attempt to regain control only worsens the chaos. This is where the Malcolm's warning comes alive. Not as philosophy, but as a lived reality. Complex systems don't fail gradually, they collapse all at once. Nature does not rebel, it simply resumes authority when humans overstep. So, what was once a marvel becomes a predator ecosystem. Jurassic Park stops being a dream and reveals itself as a mistake. In Jurassic Park, Malcolm becomes both a physical casualty and a moral witness to the park's collapse, symbolizing the cost of seeing the truth early and still being ignored. Even in his weakened state, he continues to speak about the human arrogance, the scientific experiments exceeding their limits, and the illusion of control. This forces a pertinent question to you all viewers. When systems collapse, do they expose a failure of technology or a failure of human humility in designing it? I now invite Dr. Siddharth to share his reflections on this. Over to you, Siddharth.
That's a very deep question and a beautiful, example to talk about how humans have lost ethics in many places in even history. When we talk about some great historical inventions, uh, we forget to talk about the failures we had with them. And one such failure I can remember now is Bhopal gas tragedy, which happened in India. Uh, it was a night of December 2nd, 1984, when the city of Bhopal became the site of the world's deadliest industrial disaster. A Union Carbide pesticide plant leaked over 40 tons of toxic methyl isocyanate gas and turning the air into a lethal fog for 500,000 sleeping residents. When we think about this massive disaster, it was initially looking like maybe some kind of error, but when the investigation went through, it was figured out that there was a systematic failure because of certain ethics which were not accounted for. The ethics to keep the safety paramount for a factory like this, which had so much of toxic gas in it. They were producing toxic gas. To cut the cost, the industry owners had actually kept the critical safety systems like refrigeration units and flare towers switched off just to cut the cost. And when the chemical reaction spiked, these safety guards were not there, and that caused so many lives. It claimed more than thousands of lives that night and left a toxic legacy that even continues today. If you go to Bhopal, you will see a cloud which is there. Uh, Still, people are breathing, and they talk about the Bhopal gas tragedy night, which will remain a most disastrous night in the history of Bhopal and India. So with that, we also get a reminder of uh, this particular point that when humans fail to remember their ethics, then what happens to uh, the future of the invention or the discovery or whatever scientific experiments would have been done is a disaster for the generations to come, and nobody actually takes account of it. The cost of negligence is paid by the innocent, and I feel this is the biggest reminder for every human generation era, through whatever era we live in. We always have to remember this, that ethics is important over building something without remembering why we are building it. So over to you, Shitapa, to talk more about this.
Yes, that was definitely a very tragic incident, and very rightly said that people should take accountability of what should will go wrong if they disobey what they are supposed to do, or if they do not follow the system in a right way. So I can just add on to it with one of the cases which had happened in 2018 is Punjab National Bank Nirav Modi's scam case of a banking sector, where it is a classic case where the system collapsed without technology failure, because the banking system was everything was working fine, swift messaging, it worked exactly as it was designed, but a few bank employees, they colluded with a businessman and issued fake guarantees and bypassing the internal checks which we do yearly in the bank. And at the end, when the fraud came up, the collapse didn't come from the weak technology, because it was tracking all the transactions as manipulated by humans, but what it came was people chose to override what they were what their job roles were to safeguard, and they meant to protect the system. Rather, they chose to bypass the system, and was they failed ethically, and they didn't take the accountability, and that's where you know uh, the entire system was a scam. So yes, laws exist, system exist, technology exists, but it is what fails is if we as humans do not have the accountability and ethically do the work as it is expected. So over to you, Sujata, for more insights.
Thank you, Shritapa. Now, the theme for is that nature pushes back. How does it push back? There's a moment in every story, human story, when nature stops listening, when it is no longer negotiates. This round is about that moment. In part two of Sapiens, the agricultural revolution, Harari makes a shocking claim. He calls it the biggest fraud in history. Why? Because humans believed agriculture gave them control. What Harari actually says, he explains that the agricultural revolution, which existed around 12,000 years ago, when it started, was seen by humans as progress: more food, permanent settlements, control over plants and animals. He gives the example of wheat. He famously flips the story and asks, did humans domesticate wheat, or did wheat domesticate humans? He points out that humans cleared forests, dug irrigation channels, carried water, pulled weeds, protected wheat from pests. All of this labor was done for the benefit of wheat, not necessarily humans. Humans believed they were controlling nature by farming wheat. In reality, their lives began to revolve around wheat's needs. So he says that wheat actually trapped humans into harder labor, disease, and fragile food systems. The early farmers, as in contrast to the foragers, they had to work longer hours, performed repetitive physical labor, had worse nutrition. And this is proved when the bones and all that, they were examined and they were found. The skeletal remains showed farmers were shorter and weaker. The dental health worsened. Social changes were there, hierarchies emerged, mental and emotional changes were there because the anxiety increased due to crop dependence. If there was no crop in a particular season, famine would follow. So, just like the early farmers believed they were mastering nature, the creators of Jurassic Park believed they were controlling it. But control comes with conditions. Nature demanded labor, nature demanded obedience, nature demanded sacrifice. And when those conditions failed, nature responded. So, nature is actually, it tries to correct any imbalance whenever it occurs. So, now my question to you, Jasveer, that is, when nature pushes back, do we listen? Or what happens? Can you cite from any real incident, real examples? Over to you, Jasveer.
Thank you, Sujata. Yes, there is a very, very important real life example to prove that. That uh, can you imagine a virus which is smaller than a grain of sand made all our lives miserable, and this was COVID-19. All that it started off is human experiment in a laboratory in Wuhan in China. It was a virus that was supposed they were trying to control and trying to experiment on, and that experiment failed. And what was a virus which was being experimented on bats? When it transferred to humans and the virus jumped from animals to humans, it was miserable. And all of us know what we have gone through. Not only the respiratory issues, the mental agony that was caused. When people, I mean, human beings are known as social animals, and we cut off socially. And it was so scary that I would worry about meeting my neighbors in the building. Can you imagine if they were not wearing a mask or something like that? And when we in my building, when we had quite a few cases, and the building had to shut down and all this. I mean, just imagine the way nature told us that what are you fooling around with? What are you trying to prove? So at the end of it, it was that epidemic was a product of civilization, not nature. It was all because we wanted to, experiment and overcome all these epidemics, and we landed up giving one to the world. Which till date, I mean, there are people who've had heart attacks, strokes, and and thanks to the COVID vaccine. So there is so much of irony between having created the problem and the solution and not being able to deal with it till date. And it is a lifelong thing because so many people still suffer because of the effects of COVID-19. Their lungs have become weak. The children, sadly, the generation that was confined to their houses have become social media addicts. They don't want to go out and play in the sun. So all these, it's like a pandemic which is going on forever. Vitamin D deficiency, depression, anxiety. So there is no end to this. And it's not nature's response was not, the intention was not punishment. It was a lesson. But I don't know whether the human civilization has ever learned any lessons from nature. So now I hand it over to Dr. Geeta to continue. Thank you.
Thank you, Jasbir. That was very thought-provoking and insightful. It was a very terrifying period of, the COVID times was a very terrifying period. And it was a struggle to survive. And it kind of like relates here. Now, in Jurassic Park, the survival is no longer enough. The story moves away from escape and survival into something colder, heavier, and far more unsettling, the reckoning and the assessment. Until now, the question had been who will survive? Next, the question becomes what must be erased? Rescue is no longer the priority, containment is. Authorities recognize a terrifying truth. The park cannot be fixed, restored, or made safe. It can only be neutralized. The island must be sterilized. Life must be destroyed to prevent its spread beyond the boundaries humans once trusted. What makes this decision even more disturbing is the revelation that it comes too late. The dinosaurs were never truly contained. Despite genetic safeguards, population controls, and engineered fail-safes, life has done what life always has done. It adapted. Dinosaurs have begun breeding, migrating, expanding, and the systems designed to limit them have quietly failed while humans congratulated themselves on their brilliance. In this moment, John Hammond's dream collapses entirely. What once appeared as childlike wonder is revealed as ethical emptiness. Vision without restraint becomes negligence. The park was never just an experiment. It was a gamble with consequences that Hammond refused to imagine or to take account of. This is where the Malcolm's theory is fully vindicated. His prediction is fully vindicated. His warnings were never about dinosaurs. They were about people, about how humans mistake temporary success for mastery. That failures wasn't accidental, it was inevitable. The survivors do escape, of course. Helicopters lift them away from the island, but there is no victory there, no sense of closure. What remains is damage, scientific, moral, ecological, that cannot be undone. Knowledge has escaped alongside with the creatures, and knowledge once released does not return quietly. Complete obliteration becomes the only solution to the chaos that humans themselves created. The novel does not end with the triumph, it ends with unease, with the understanding that some doors once opened should never have been unlocked at all. This brings us to the question when a human made disaster can only be solved through the destruction of it, does this represent diffuse responsibility or lack of accountability? I now invite Dr. Siddharth to give his reflections on this. Over to you, Siddharth. Dr. Siddharth.
Thank you, Dr. Geeta. You pointed out a very beautiful line. The doors which are meant to be unopened, should they be ever unlocked? One such incident I remember is the 2013 Kedarnath incident, which was a catastrophe in itself. In my book, also, latest book, Extraterrestrial, I talk about the human thought of doing something unimaginable and then succumbing to the disasters which actually it would have caused because of that unlocking the unlocking which they did. This example of Kedarnath is something like that, a real example. For decades, we looked at Mandakini's river, dry western bed, and saw real estate. They had such a beautiful place there, and the construction companies came there and built so many hotels and lodges directly on the sleeping spine of the river, betting against geology. Though geologists disagreed, but then because of corruption, there was a lot of investment done on this riverbed, which became the disaster in 2013 when Chorabari Lake burst, releasing 260 million liters of water in minutes. The river didn't carve a new path, it simply went home. So it basically talks about that situation where we were already aware that it is something which we should not open up on. We should not create revenue out of this particular place, which is already very dangerous. But then we went ahead and did that. As humans, we continue to make decisions which are against nature, and we are not ready to accept that we had made such stupid decisions at points where we took them, right? So, in Kedarnath story, basically what happens is that there is a this lake which goes, so there is a cloudburst, and then all this river becomes a flood, and the flood actually kills so many people. There are century-old temples which are standing still because their stones were built on the belief that nature will sustain them. But the new buildings, the new hotels, the new places which were restaurants which were built on the in that lake area were all taken away, and finally, nature proved it again that construction without a mindful thought will be destructed, will face destruction whenever humans will go against nature. So nature doesn't negotiate; it eventually reclaims what is its own. So I feel that is the message which the 2013 Kedarnath catastrophe talks about, and it completely resonates with the point which we are talking here in the Jurassic Park story as well. And I think the message is very clear. So over to you, Shitapa, for your messaging. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for that. And that was definitely more well explained what Geeta ji said. You gave a very good live example of what has happened. And I just want to add to this same understanding that forest fires, they have occurred more frequently, more natural calamity has been throughout globally, just not India, but globally it is happening, natural calamities and things have increased significantly, air pollution, etc. And what it is happening is because people have focused more on the short term benefits rather than long term survival. Today we are we just see what we are getting in return, like there are fertile lands, or we just go and uh, do some industrial development on a fertile land, maybe for cultivation, change the direction of the river, uh, uh, you know uh, brutally remove forest after forest to build the buildings, and there is the industries are coming up, the houses are getting developed on the land where there was a balance of between the nature and the survival of humans. But we have tried to take more from nature than we need, and that's where the imbalance has started. And we are repeating the same mistake, the same old mistake of choosing short term game over the long term. And now we have just amplified this in a greater power, and we are seeing a lot of issues because of the forest cut and fires used in farming, like they're just burning the remaining parts of cultivation, and that is causing air pollution. Rivers are getting diverted dirty due to pollution of industrial chemicals, or human using it in a way like it was supposed to be, if to provide fresh water, but not to be littered and polluted. But we live with that because greed has come over the what the balance was supposed to be there. We have just lost on that, and that is impacting globally over, and we are facing the consequences. So we are repeating this mistake. We know that this is a problem. We are bringing in more technologies, more advanced technologies to solve these problems, but at the end we are repeating the same mistake, not addressing the root cause. So that's what I feel the pattern is repeating. So it is very well related with Jurassic Park, that we can do it, what we want to do it, so we will do. Will we do or will we not do is a question we should ask uh, before we do anything in the ecosystem and harming everyone globally. So over to you, Sujata, for more insight.
Thank you, Shritapa. As you very nicely pointed out, we take so many decisions, diverting rivers and so many things we do, thinking that they are for the good. We like to believe that they are moral creatures. But what happens to morality when survival is at stake? Throughout Sapiens, Harari, he keeps returning to one uncomfortable truth. Evolution has no moral compass. In parts 1 and 2, he explains that biology is driven by survival and reproduction, not fairness or justice. Our moral systems, laws, ethics, human rights, they are not biological facts. They are human agreements. They exist because we believe in them. In Jurassic Park, when the systems collapse, something interesting happens. There are no heroes and villains anymore, only survivors. The dinosaurs follow instinct. Humans, under pressure, begin to do the same. Morality doesn't disappear, but it becomes fragile. The shared takeaway here is deeply unsettling. Morality is a luxury of stability. Survival is primal. Harari doesn't say humans are bad. He says humans are biological creatures who tell moral stories. And those stories are easiest to uphold when life is comfortable. Something is clear, nature pushes back. Survival takes center stage. Whenever it pushes back, and the idea of human superiority, it begins to crack. So here's the question to you, Jasbir. Are our moral values strong enough to survive crisis, or do they depend on comfort? So over to you, Jasbir.
Thank you, Sujata. Yes, it's a very dicey question. And this has been evident in so many wars and riots that has happened over the world, you know. For example, in India, there have been riots over certain tensions that have been created between communities, even political views that have been opposed by two different communities. And at that time of the riot, it is difficult to understand that how people who are peace-loving neighbors suddenly are out to cut each other's throats. And there have been situations where it has, you know, like neighbors have killed each other because of certain values that they believe in, and because of those contrasting values. And shops are looted, there is arson, and there is a breakdown of the entire social system, and morality goes for a toss. And it all depends finally on survival of the fittest, who can manage to escape from that situation. And there are no ethics involved at all. Those people who are happy and together are finally, you know, killing each other at the cost of even children and women not being spared. So it's such a difficult situation. And the entire human system, the human values, they just collapse. And all that matters is that they need to survive, and they want to only protect their own family, their community. And finally there is complete chaos and mayhem and murders, and you know, it's really really sad. So finally, all this thing about nature and human values, all this goes for a toss when it comes to survival. So now, these are my views, and I hand it over to Shritapa to conclude today's session. Thank you.
Thank you, Jasbir. Yes, very rightly said that we now have to think on and really focus on what we are trying to achieve. Are we really supposed to do what we are doing? Is a question we should ask before even taking a step. Are we doing our job well, ethically, before we are getting questioned as a scam? These things happen because someone somewhere is violating rules. Someone somewhere is not obeying. Someone somewhere is not doing their job well, I will say. And hence nature is reacting, and hence the ecosystem is impacted. So let's be more responsible as humans, and let's rebuild the ecosystem to and bring back the balance. With this, I close the conversation today. Thank you. Meet you in next episode. Tata, bye bye, take care.